Highs of 30 to 34. A little bit of a warm-up as the rest of the week goes on, though.
Good.
Okay.
Let it stay that way. Good job. Christmas present. If you don't have all of your Christmas shopping done, we've got a little reminder of what you may be facing in the next few days. Photographer Luke Loken shows us what the stores were like on this last weekend of holiday buying. Good night.
Golden honey, crunchy nuts, whole grain oats. It's why the taste of Honey Nut Cheerios is oh so irresistible.
It's Honey Nut Cheerios.
Nearly 250,000 Minnesotans will rely on food shelves this year to feed their families. I'm Robin Robinson from KMSP, here to tell you how you can make a difference. The city's 97 FM radio has produced the City Sampler Volume 3, Songs for the Earth, a benefit recording for the Minnesota Food Shelf Association. KMSP and the city's 97 FM are proud to support their efforts to eliminate hunger in our state. The City Sampler Volume 3 is now available in most Twin City music retailers.
Hi, this is Club FTV's Frank Maciel inviting you to join me for FTV's Songs of the Season. You'll love FTV's Songs of the Season, a holiday special musical presentation your whole family will enjoy. Christmas Eve night at 7 on Receptive Channel 9.
Sports Fan Sunday is brought to you in part by Twin Cities Leather and Boots, Hopkins, Burnsville, and Blaine, and by Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America.
Live from Champs in Minnetonka, K-Fan and KMSP Sports presents Sports Fan Sunday. Now, Eric Nelson and Jim Gilliland.
Thank you. Welcome. We're at Champs in Minnetonka, as you may have heard. If you aren't familiar with what we've been doing here, this is called Sports Fan Sunday, kind of a sports forum where we sit around with our panel of media experts and offer various opinions on what's going on in the world of sports, both locally and nationally, if need be, if we feel the need to do that. And tonight, Eric Nelson joins me as always, KFAN's own. Eric, introduce our distinguished panel to the...
Well, to my right is Dazzling Dan Barrero of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, making his second appearance on Sports Fan Sunday. And then my partner in prime time on the radio, David Huffman.
Have you already run out of people to talk to in this town? Dan's
well,
on
people
twice,
are not
I'm back
talking
here.
to me. That's the problem. And Perry
sad.
Williams, the sports director at KMSP TV Channel 9, back from Las Vegas.
Back from a week
full
off.
Of predictions for the
a
Super
lot
Bowl
of predictions.
tournament.
Oh, you bet, you bet. Good to be back. Although I'm always uncomfortable with this expert label that they come out with.
What were
If
the
you don't
odds
have
of
a
the two of
strong,
us?
if you don't have a strong opinion, you develop one quickly. Happy holidays to everyone. Let's give you a preview of what is going to take place on tonight's show, Sports Fan Sunday, Week 3. We have, among other topics to discuss, McKinley-Boston. A lot of news has happened since we last spoke with you. McKinley Boston has been named athletic director at the University of Minnesota. The Viking ownership hassle is apparently over. They have solved that question. Roger Hedrick, Mike Lynn and company have taken over that portion of the program. And so we have those two things. We have Jack Morris leaving the Minnesota Twins, Dan Gladden leaving the Minnesota Twins, Brian Harper staying with the Twins. Leo Lewis will be our live guest in studio to discuss his years in studio, in the Champ studio. His years with the Vikings and Jerry Burns'
Where's he
years
gonna
with the
sit?
Vikings.
No, I'm on the bubble again. I kind of
Jerry's going
rotate
back to
out of
Vegas.
here.
Gonna put you out in the end?
Yeah, you know, Leo has a big chair to fill when
Okay.
I get out of here.
Bob
That's the
Gainey
way
will
down
be
the
our
road.
one-on-one guest, and we will also tackle the question of North Stars up and down, Timberwolves,
Bob
and in
Gainey
general, the
had-
whole sports scene. So we'll get into the program now with McKinley Boston. We sat here last week, and I think most of the experts thought that Jerry Noyce would be the choice. That was the popular thinking.
I said it 2 weeks ago, and I thought it would be nice. And of course, I was gone last week. I wasn't here during the press conference. When I came back from my little soiree in Las Vegas, I was surprised, I guess. I don't know much about McKinley Boston. I think probably a lot of people were. What were some of the reasons given? I don't know.
Well, let's see. He was an athletic director at a major university. He
Over
was
Jerry
an
Noyce,
MA
though, let's say.
Well, the man's an academician. Guy's an athletic director. He's been in charge of a program. Pardon me?
Can you spell academician?
I can't say it.
AC Demission. It goes
That's
forward.
very good.
But I mean, the guy's got all the positives you want. He just doesn't have all the inside connections. And there's still pundits running around town here at various functions and various things. I mean, still complaining and crying in their milk, saying that, you know, how dare Niels Hasselmo go back to the fact that he had already appointed Jerry Noyce to all the bigwigs and then go out and get McKinley Boston. It was a brave choice, and we talked about
You
that
like
last
it
week.
like the
because
move.
you like it because he's a former football player, probably.
Well,
Oh, yeah,
Well,
but no, he's tennis
I like
guy.
it for the reason you just said. I don't think he's going to be beholden to the inside powers. I mean, he can come in, take a fresh look at what's going on, and he doesn't have to worry about pleasing A, B, C, and D. I don't think Noyce would have been a bad choice at all.
It was a good
They
way.
had
it
two
was
good choices.
It was a good way either way. I mean, Noyce has got to come in and deal with budgets. He deals with $50 million over at the health club. I mean, he is a good individual. This was great for both sides, but I really think the university went out and found an athletic director. That's what they needed. That's what they got.
plus I think, too, McKinley Boston.
What,
Okay.
the mic bites you there?
It's this new setup we have. We ditched the lavalier mics. Hopefully these are working a little better.
We didn't ditch them. We replaced them gently, actually.
Put a new battery in them.
Yeah.
I think most people agreed that the choices could have gone either way, that there were two good choices.
like
That's why
Dave
they have a committee and get it down to two people. And they decided on the president decided on Niels Hasselmo. President Niels
Well, it sounds
Hasselmo
pretty
decided on
positive, though, but
McKinley
Experience has
Boston.
to be the
Now,
key. Plus, let's face it, if he gets a coach in here to coach the Gopher football team and that guy starts turning things around, people are going to forget. The business community will jump on McKinley's bandwagon, and everyone will say this is a great thing. And also, the guy's been on both sides of the fence. He's an academician, or however you want to say that, and he's a
Close.
former athlete.
Whatever.
He knows, he knows what it's like on the field, and then in
He's
an
a
athletic
great
department.
role model. If people want to talk about having a role model, having somebody you look at, somebody you want to be in your community, here's a guy who has been able to blend the last winning championship team at the University of Minnesota with school. And what more do you want? The man's good. He's qualified.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing. You go right down the line. The guy's credentials are impeccable. I mean, I'm impressed that they went out and sought out this guy, or at least made some phone calls or did some research and did not go with the obvious choice. That's what I
Define the
like.
brotherhood too. I'm thinking some people might be a little bit unclear as to this brotherhood.
Brotherhood is very difficult to define because it's, I don't know that it really. I'm not even sure that it completely exists, and I think it changes forms. But I think it's a group of local leaders who were largely responsible for convincing and for selling and for paying Lou Holtz to, come to town to the University of Minnesota. And lately, they basically have been getting shut out because clearly Noyce was the choice of most of these guys, most of this group.
The thing that impressed me about him was his openness. He said, I'm willing to work with anyone, meet with anyone, someone who's been around a long time or someone who's just returned to the community like me.
Well, he definitely have a challenge ahead. So first of all, obviously, the most pressing problem is to get a football coach. He's got to, I know he's probably out of town now and getting his stuff ready to move back over here and back to the Midwest. And and enjoy the holidays maybe. But this is what he's got to find a coach. Get on.
This is also a big decision. I mean, Eric, you said this too, is that as soon as he makes that choice, he falls back into the woodwork. We really don't care about him as much because we want to know what the football guy is going to do. How are they going to recruit? How are they going to get kids in here? What's the program going to look like? So his most important decision will be the coach, and then he goes away.
Here he is at the press conference here. Excuse me a second, fellas. For those of you who did not get to see any of the McKinley Boston material over the week, he is got his old Gopher jersey, a new jersey, the number he used to wear.
What was his number?
78, according to the
how did the jersey
pulled
look?
out of the box.
A little tighter now.
No, that's the new jersey.
A little tighter.
He's an
The new old
M-man.
jersey.
I mean, he played on the last Gopher team to win a Big Ten championship in '60,
Well,
'70. Where's his
Silas
ring?
Silas
McKinney.
Silas McKinney was
Basketball
talking
assistant.
about him and said when he played football, he remembers him. He said he was tough to trap, and he said he looks a little bigger now than he was back then. I guess life's been pretty good.
Well, they've grown over the years. They take juices now, some of these athletes. They didn't back in McKinley's day.
We talk about the coaching situation. What does he have to look at? A popular train of thought is that he's not going to be able to bring in a guy with a lot of experience and success at a Division I level. He's going to maybe have to go for the lower tier of Division I or a coach who's been successful on Division II.
He's got an individual out there. I mean, he's got names that he will not divulge. I mean, he's already had the process. Again, he's hired football coaches. I mean, he knows how to go through this process. It's different at the University of Minnesota because it's so public right now, but he's gone through all these things. He's got a short list.
Let's be realistic, though. I mean, going through the process at Rhode Island is not quite even the same at the University of Minnesota. We're talking about a different level, and that is the one question about him, I think, is if he's going to be able to make a big-time.
No, but you're also going to. Well, the question then begs, what do you mean by a big-time hire? I mean, they're not going to hire John Makovic here for $600,000 a year.
That seems unlikely.
What are they going to pay?
Budget constraints.
Talks about what does the marketplace hold right now for.
Although Nils Hasselmo, when they announced the resignation, the firing of John Goodekun, said, we will pay whatever it takes to get a big-name, top-level coach here. Yeah. And it was asked what it would be with the combination of hundreds of thousands of dollars, what some of these other top coaches get, and he said, we will do whatever it takes.
Well, he wants a guy
saying that and doing it are two different things.
He wants a guy who's coached and a guy who's won before.
50, huh?
Oh.
Well, I mean,
he'd probably take 100.
Well, absolutely.
We talked a little bit about this before. I mean, the key thing, I think, is to get a guy who has been at a program that's been down, that's had to be rebuilt, and has shown some ability to do something about it. Mason's name has come up. Glenn Mason. The only problem is, I'm not sure we've ever heard from Glenn Mason that, yeah, I'm interested in the job. It's more they seem to have expressed interest to this point.
Where did Ray Perkins go? He was like a comet across the Minnesota sky. He wanted to talk to everybody. He was on every news service, media.
This is a guy who hates
everywhere.
Who loathes the media.
Oh,
this guy loathes the press, and now he's
him.
He needs a
playing
job,
up to
David.
everybody.
But he's
when
a job. This was a
Illinois job
chance.
opened, I thought
He's gone. He's already disappeared.
No, Perkins has no chance. I don't think.
Yeah, but
this
I mean,
would have
he's
been a
already
truck stop.
disappeared.
He would have came here, filled up his tank, and left when the next better job opened up. This would not have been the situation for Ray Perkins to be in.
Do we need? Does it have to be a young coach? Jim Wacker's name has been mentioned. As an
TCU,
innovator.
he's done a fine job at his school.
I've always liked Jim Wacker. I thought he's did a great job.
You know, they talk about, well, the strike against him is that, TCU was put on probation. It was Jim Wacker who came forward and said, you know, we had a problem here. We did something wrong, turned himself in thinking, okay, you know, we'll clear ourselves up. Everything will go well. Well, the NCAA in their infinite wisdom said, bang, you're
3
dead.
years.
But the guy has integrity, and he's been in a doghouse school. TCU down in the Southwest Conference, I mean, has been the doormat for everybody. So, I mean, you don't want somebody who's continually in a bad program you want to name, but here's a guy who will get results and work with kids who don't have the skill level as a lot of other Big Ten schools right now.
Okay, we got to move on to the pro level now because
Later.
Equal time for the Vikes here because they
Why?
saw their own.
Why?
No, let's talk about something we care about.
Well, partial time for the Vikes. We'll give them a minute.
We can bury him for good tonight.
Roger
till
Hedrick
August.
says he will have a coach in place by the middle of January, but he's got a lot of competition out there. There's going to be at least a half a dozen NFL teams looking for coaches.
It's a bad time to be looking for a coach. There may be 8 coaching vacancies
Maybe even
in
9,
the NFL,
yeah.
perhaps 9. So certainly the Viking job may be the least attractive out of all of them compared to the Packers, where you've got 2 number 1s, 2 number 2s in the draft.
I think Jim Wacker ought to become the Viking head coach.
The other problem you have, I mean, we've talked about the draft choices. The other problem, if I'm a big-name guy, you can probably answer this. Do I want to come to an organization where it's still unclear who in the front office is making the personnel calls? I mean, nobody knows how that's all going to, how it's going to end up. I mean, if Hedrick's involved in that, where Reichow fits in, and if you're a big, if you're a coach who's not desperate for a job, don't you want that defined? I mean, as well as the ownership question, don't you want that defined before you're going to come in here?
We don't have time for equal time here. We have time for one name from each guy, Viking coach. We didn't do it with Gophers, but...
You mean realistically, somebody who could probably become the head coach here, or you want like Bill Parcells' name?
Yeah, well, I'm going to get that from him. So.
Lindy and Fonny.
Lindy's done. He's good. He's a goose.
He said he's going to retire.
Yeah, you said he. Yeah, well, we won't get into your prediction.
I'm an idiot.
How he was going to have another 5 years in Green Bay.
I didn't say. I said
well,
one more.
Okay.
Well, 1 or 5. Yeah.
I'll say Buddy Ryan.
Ooh. I'll say, and this isn't who I want him to take. I think they should go after Parcells. They don't have the guts to do it. Chuck Knox.
No.
That bores me.
No, that's not who I want.
Chuck Knox will go to the Rams.
He's going to the Rams.
He's going to the Rams.
The Rams may
Chuck Knox is too boring for Hollywood.
But Chuck Knox might not be a bad coach for this team.
Why?
The only thing they've got left is offensive power right now. A power running game. That's ground Chuck.
All right,
I'll strengths.
I'll throw out the name Mike
Chuck
White.
Knox is not it.
A second line or a quarterback coach at the Raiders who has Midwest experience. And we'll leave it at that. We'll come back and talk about the Twins. A lot's been happening there. A lot of guys from the World Championship team, or at least a couple of big names, trotting off to other teams. We'll be back at Sports Fan Sunday in a moment.
It's wintertime at your Chevy Geo dealers. A great time of year to get big deals on Geos.
Well, my family's never been very lucky.
Son! Now, hey, during wintertime, you can get to know Geo with cash back or low wintertime financing with no payments for 90 days. With deals like these, anybody can be a winner.
$750 cash back.
Hey, I know big league deals.
Is that because you've been traded so much?
Sweet kid. They'll say anything for an autograph. See your Chevy Geo dealer today.
Come to play. Little six. Blackjack in the big time casino. Come to win. Little six. Come on into the big time casino. Come to play. Blackjack. It's the one blackjack in the big time casino. Little six. The big time casino.
Just south of Canterbury Downs in Shakopee.
I can make you laugh, or I can make you cry. I can bring you all together, or mend a broken heart. I'll lift you up, but I'll never let you down. I am Mr. Movies. For entertainment that's always close to home, the choice is clear. When it comes to movies, all the best are here. And this holiday, give the gift that will entertain all year. A gift certificate from Mr. Movies. Happy holidays.
We're back here at Champs in Minnetonka, Sports Fan Sunday, the third Sports Fan Sunday. A lot of people thought we wouldn't get this far, but so far we haven't.
We're not done.
This yet. Coming up, still to go on Sports Fan Sunday, we'll visit with Leo Lewis of the Minnesota Vikings. He will be our live in-studio guest. Jimmy Gilliland will recap the day in sports, give you the NFL playoff picture that'll begin next week with the wild card games. We'll have a one-on-one visit with Bob Gainey, head coach of the Minnesota North Stars. And also a little bit later, Jim and I will give you our Christmas wish list for some of the local sports
So people
teams.
ought to get a paper and pencil and write it down, and they can help you out. Make your dreams come true.
We're going to play Santa
You'll
Claus.
have your chance.
Oh, I get a chance.
You can all chime in, but right now we're going to let the fans chime in. We went out to Champs in Richfield and got some fan reaction to Jack Morris's run for the border as he took off and signed a big contract with the Toronto Blue Jays. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I thought he was a hometown boy, and I figured he'd be proud to play in his hometown. And, I mean, when you're talking millions of dollars, how many millions does he want? I mean, I just figured he'd hang out in his hometown.
It's a little disappointing. I wish he could have been back with the Twins, but, of course, they weren't going to offer him enough, so I think he's worth more than the Twins offered.
He's looking out for number one. Like I said before, the man doesn't have any ties in the Twin Cities. He came across like he did originally, but I admire the man's talent. I don't stick by his principles too highly, though. So, Jack, good luck, though. You're a hell of an athlete.
I'd like to see him stay. You know, he like Bill said, he's a hometown boy, and I'd like to see him stay here. We hardly even got a chance to get to know him. So,
if any baseball player wants to make that much money, let him go. He doesn't need to make that much money. Anybody with half a brain can support a family or do whatever they want on a fraction of that. And it just costs too much money to keep that sort of thing going. When you have a bad economy, it's not because people aren't working. It's because certain people are getting paid too much money to do too little.
Well, my whole opinion is, the whole thing is, he's holding out. The guy's old, and Toronto, they can eat the dust because eat the dust because, I mean, the whole thing is, he's not going to do any better than what he did last year.
So slightly 2 months after Jack Morris pitches Game 7 and leads the Twins to a win over the Braves in the World Series, is the World Series MVP. He's now off to Canada. He'll make $10 million guaranteed for 2 years, then the third year is a Blue Jay option. Quick reaction from the panel here. Dan?
I mean, I'm not surprised, and I don't begrudge him taking the money. I do. I'm amazed that he is surprised, or Morris supporters are surprised that fans would feel a little bit irritated that, you know, he'd milk the emotion thing for the entire year he was here, and that maybe they'd feel a little bit abandoned when he left, you know?
Were those sincere tears then last year?
I don't, well, somebody told me he blubbered when he got to Toronto too, so I don't know.
You know, I think the thing is, though, this is a difference from, I think, the earlier days with Calvin and the Twins. I think that there isn't this big uproar because I think most fans think the Twins gave him a fair offer. In the past, I thought that, you know, well, Calvin, they're being cheap. These guys aren't getting what they're due. I think most people, there isn't this uproar. The uproar is probably anti-Morris and there's anti-Twins for not
If
keeping
Calvin
him.
hadn't signed Jack Morris, the fans would say he should sell the team to someone who has money. This guy has money. What I kind of resent is them saying we can't pay him. They don't want to pay him. They don't think he's worth it. That's fine. But to say they can't pay him on the heels of the announcement that Carl's going to collect $32 million for his Vikings deal.
I think that's what bothers me more than anything else is Carl Pohlad can do anything he chooses to do. He's got $420 million in an Empire Bank and things like that.
He just made some more, getting rid of the
He's got $32
Vikings.
million coming now. He'll have $20 million coming over a set period of time. They can do anything they choose. It has nothing to do with a small market. Economics have played since day one professional sports. I mean, we read stories about in the 20s and 30s, Babe Ruth having a problem with contract salaries, people fighting over $500 and quitting. It's just scale now. I mean, it's just larger numbers. But ball players will go where the cash is. That's what you're hired to do. And
But,
when
no,
Jack Morris
that's
bailed,
my point, though. That was Jack's mistake. I mean, that's what bothers me.
Here he comes in with the wine glass.
It's a business from the beginning.
He's having a good time.
And what happened, too, is the marketplace changed. About 2.5 weeks ago, before the winter meeting started, the Twins were real close to locking him up. They didn't hammer home all the final details and, you know, dot the T's, cross the I's. So what happened is Tom Candiotti signs a huge contract. Mike Morgan with the Cubs, Candiotti with the Dodgers. These guys are not Jack Morris. Jack Morris thought he should have gotten more, and the Blue Jays offered him more.
Ugliest uniforms in baseball, too. How could he put that hat on?
That's next year's World Series champion.
That logo, though, is the most popular thing in Canada. It's on underwear.
Next year's World Series champs.
Maybe the most popular thing besides maybe something that they drink. Labatt's.
The Twins were very inflexible here. I mean, one offer, Morris came back a couple of times, and he's kind of a stubborn guy, and when they didn't move, he just...
Well, but I don't have any problem with the offer. I mean, the third year of this deal, he's going to be 39 years old. They're saying they want some incentives. They want him to meet some incentives the second year. I mean, if he can get better, that's fine, but I think they went as far as they had to go.
They may just go out and get somebody else. I mean, they are almost forced now to make a move, maybe to get somebody like Eric King, who most recently pitched with Cleveland and was released. Kirk McCaskill of the Angels is a free agent. They need to get somebody who can give them some innings like Jack did. And these guys aren't Jack Morris's, but
the
they're
other
solid
thing that's
pitchers.
interesting is that how often do people repeat? I mean, it's very often in sports people repeat. I mean, we've seen it in the 50s with the Lakers and the Celtics and things like that, but today it's very difficult. 2 and 5 years is not bad. If the Twins say, we got to take a little soon, we're going to have to learn with some of the young guys, we're going to have to go with Tapani, who's may have a hard time. Erickson may not hit 12 games in a row next year, but we're going to learn with some of these guys. 2 or 3 years, take a little dip, come right back up and do it again. It's still not a bad job.
Yeah, I think they've got to do something fairly major. Yeah. Not maybe Jack Morris level, but I mean, they were ready to spend that amount of money. I don't think in in 3 or 4 months, people will forget. They won't be as mad at Jack if they haven't made a move. If the Twins haven't made a move, that's what they'll start remembering, and that's what'll bug them.
Do they just go out and sign Kirby now and say, look, we're going to sign you now, 5 years, $5 million a year. Do it now.
There's this damage control, if there is any. I mean, that's showing that they're indeed looking to the future. I think there's also, I think they have to nail down the paleo rule. There's some other holes they think they need to address.
Somebody's got to step forward from the ranks of the youth, or they have to make a trade, because they were a good team when Viola was giving them the 250 innings. They had a horse to lean on. And when Morris came back and was able to offer them the same thing, they were a good team once again. If Tapani or Erickson can do it, maybe they'll be okay,
That's
but they
what,
need to
Andy's
improve.
trying to sell that a little bit, like, well, Tapani emerged, Erickson emerged this year. But the fact is that going out and getting Morris was proof that until they got a horse, until they replaced Viola in effect, that they were not going to be a contending team. And that's why they got to do it again.
Okay, guys, we got to wrap this segment up. One thing's for sure, the Blue Jays will have a Minnesota tint next year. Jack Morris, St. Paul native, Dave Winfield, a St. Paul native, and maybe Al Newman, the former Twin, will be playing for Toronto. Now, coming up, we're going to hear from Leo Lewis, our live in-studio guest. Jim Gilliland will recap the day in sports, and we'll also talk with Bob Gainey one-on-one. Sports Fan Sunday continues from Champs in Minnetonka right after this.
A comparison study in supermarket economics. Low prices often do not equate with good stuff. And sometimes you have a sinking feeling that good stuff costs too much. One supermarket, Rainbow Foods, has found a very happy equation. For example, right now, Rainbow Brown and Serve rolls are just 29 cents a dozen.
No way.
It's true, low prices on the good stuff.
Rainbow Foods.
I can see the hesitation in my customers' faces. I mean, I know I'm giving them the best prices, but how can I prove it? So I suggest they use their Citibank Visa.
Here you go, Walter.
If they see their purchase in a printed ad for less,
Enjoy your camera.
Citibank refunds the difference.
May I help
up to $150.
Yes, please.
That's Citibank price protection.
If getting the right price is important, this is the right card.
Not just Visa, Citibank Visa.
It's the Dodge Drive for the Gold sales drive. Now own Shadow America for only $69.84, thanks to 1,000 cash back. On Caravan, get $500 cash back, and you can get air at no extra charge. Up to $2,000 cash back on select Dodge trucks, and package savings up to $26.83. In soon. See your nearest Dodge dealer today.
New Rainier Draft Beer. Fresh as the Northwest Mountains, icy, cold taste, cold filtered, and now within your reach. New Rainier Draft and Draft Light. Seriously cold. Totally cool.
We wanted the light.
Now and then, we all need a little help from our friends. And it sure helps if one of your friends happens to be an angel.
I'll do my best.
Michael Landon, Highway to Heaven. Weekdays at 10 on Receptive Channel 9.
Studio guest on this Sunday, Leo Lewis, number 87 of the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikes finishing up their season yesterday on a down note, losing 27-7 to the Packers. Leo, I'm assuming you would have liked to have sent Jerry Burns out into the Wild Blue Yonder on a little better note than that.
Well, you said it right. It was a terrible down note. In some ways embarrassing, I guess. Yeah, it would have been nice to send him off because, the players can play another year. Some of us can anyway, but, Jerry decided not to be here another year, so it would be nice to always leave on a good note, but unfortunately, and I think it kind of...
It's just the last game that some of that transcends the
Well,
players?
I hope not. That's the one game you always remember. It's the last one. And for some of us, it's going to be a long off season. For others, we'll go on to other teams. But you kind of want to leave on a good note, and we just couldn't put it together. So I think it's more important to a lot of the players than it is to Jerry, because obviously he's not going to be here.
He had a great line in the paper about if I had any doubts about leaving, about missing this stuff, this game will certainly help me get over that.
What did he say? Did he say anything? Did he have any kind of speech to the team today in your last meeting, or did he have any things to say?
Yeah, I was telling Dave, he spent about 2 minutes with the team, and that's what we expected that. It wasn't much he could say. He's been saying it for 8 games this season. After a loss, trying to make up a big rah-rah speech into keeping our confidence up, and there's nothing more you can say about it. And I think we expected it.
Leo, the critics say your schedule was softer than Jello. That at the worst, this team should have went 10-6 and been a wild card team. Yet you finished 8-8. Can you pinpoint why again the Vikings fell short of expectations?
Well, we were underachievers the entire season. I can only think of one game that we really put it all together, and that was the Green Bay game, and we had to come from behind to do that. Meaning the Green Bay game in Green Bay. Yeah, the first one. And we just weren't in sync for the rest of the 15 games. I really can't pinpoint it, but I think over the course of my career, it's been worse.
I feel like I'm a point counterpoint here with Leo doing everything. You're one of the old goats on the team.
I guess you could
say
that.
That's a nice thing to say, David.
Well, media people have said other things,
That's
but
true.
You and Darren have been around for a while. Right? I left, so that's inevitable. What does it mean, though? Because Jerry Burns has said, you have to keep people like Darren and Leo around because not only have you experience, but you know exactly what they're going to do. Steadying influence as a team, and they're in critical situations. You're going to do the job. Burnsy's gone. They're going to bring in a new body. What does that do to your thought process right now for next year?
I have no thought process for next year, to tell you the truth. Not at this moment. But, for an older veteran, of course, a new coaching change is going to mean new ideas about a player. It could be favorable for him. It could be a disadvantaged situation for him. But, for myself or for Darren, I think you just have to wait until they come to you.
Do you start falsifying birth certificates now, like going into your bio and putting you weren't born in the 50s, you were born in the 60s and things like that?
Let me ask you what happens if a guy comes into a training camp, new coach, hard-nosed, and he wants veterans who want to play on this team, he wants you to prove it in training camp. Some of you guys have been around 8, 10 years. Do you have to knock yourselves out in training camp to prove to a new coach? Is that necessary, or will veterans rebel against that philosophy?
Well, I tell you what, I'm a good person to ask because I can't think of a year that I've gone into training camp and didn't have a chance of being cut. I think every year I've had to prove something to somebody. And I think for a veteran who isn't a starter and maybe didn't play much, like myself, always has to go into training camp to prove himself. And I think when you have a new coach coming in, granted he may have seen a lot of film on you, but it's still going to be a thing where he wants to see it done again. He wants to see you in the preseason games do something consistently all over the 4 games that you have and the 6 weeks that you may have in training camp. So it's definitely going to be a new experience, even if it's a coach that is coming within their own coaching staff. He's going to have his own ideas about people.
Leo, give us your gut feeling. We've heard a lot of names from Tom Moore to Bill Parcells to Dennis Green to whoever. Who does Leo Lewis think the guy's going to be?
Well, I tell you what, there's 2 scenarios of that. If you want to keep a team that maybe has a chance to get back in the playoffs next year, then I think you would have to get someone who knows the same personnel, because you can't change the personnel, the players, and expect to get back into the playoffs. That's my estimation. So I would think you would have to get someone like a Tom Moore to come right in. On the other hand, start the slate clean, get a new coach, have his own ideas and his own people come in. You can do it that way too.
Leo, let me ask you this. There seems to be a split on the team in terms of what the problem is.
Right.
I talked to some players who say underachievers, a term you used earlier. I hear other people say, hey, the talent's overrated on this team. We're not quite as good. If we're 8-8, it means we have 8-8 talent. Where do you fall into that? What do you think?
Well, I think every team has quality players, to tell you the truth. Some players just don't play to their abilities at times. What can you say about, Detroit? Yes, they played well last year, but not as well as they did this year. Basically the same type of players. You can say that we're older as a team, and we do need some people to push those older players to do up to their capability, but I really think we could have done better. I think experience is a key. Young players are good for the future, but you know, a Jerry Burns isn't going to last 3 or 4 more years if he was going to look at this season as being a stumbling block to his career or our career. So experience is always the key, regardless. And I think you're going to need experienced players if you want to get to the playoffs.
You need motivated players too, though, don't you? I mean, this is not. I would think you'd agree. This is not a team that seems week to week seems to play with the same urgency at all.
Well, that's true. Maybe they have no one giving them that urgency. Maybe they think, well, I'm going to be here the rest of the season regardless. You know, I don't know. To tell you the truth, and I haven't seen a really big difference between the team that Dave and I played on in, 81 or 82, or even 85.
I was there. Now I'm not. That's a big difference.
Versus even last year. I mean, I think the team does take on the personality of the coach. And I can't see any difference between all those teams that I've played on as far as their motivation, how they approach the game. You know, maybe someone from outside would generate a different type of atmosphere. But ultimately, the coach can't motivate a guy to play. He's got to go out there and play the game. The coach isn't going to play.
Leo, we appreciate you stopping by, and no matter where you are next year, we've enjoyed watching you with the Vikings, and good luck.
Well, thanks. Hopefully we'll be in the Twin Cities doing something.
All right, Leo Lewis.
Benita? Yeah, I did bring my wife, Benita. She's hurriedly eating.
She can't hear you.
But of course she can't hear us.
She's devouring that wonderful Champs food. We're going to take a break. Our thanks again to Leo Lewis out of Missouri, formerly played in Canada, and of course with the Vikings. This is Sports Fan Sunday. We'll come back with the Day in Sports with Jim Gilliland.
You talk about a wild office party.
I was discussing a visit that we had with our gynecologist.
On the next People's Court, when the party started cooking.
I warned him 4 times, and I kept telling him, don't touch me.
He started boiling.
What did you take these touches to be? Well, I took him to be a man touching me while he was talking. They were a little affectionate, I thought.
See what happened when things got hot.
You look like a pretty strong, husky guy to me.
On the next People's Court.
Monday at 11:30 on Receptive Channel 9.
It's the last week of wintertime at your Chevy Geo dealers, where you can still get cash back or low financing on Chevy cars, trucks, and Geos.
America's highest gas mileage, Metro, 58 miles per gallon highway. This is the good-looking 92 Geo Metro that delivers those winning numbers. Now only $65.34 after rebate, and that's before you make your best deal.
Hey, with wintertime deals like these, anybody can still be a winner. See your Heartland Chevrolet Geo dealers today.
Here comes some nerd stealing.
Discover the magic of the season,
Christmas and not found.
where all Santa's best helpers shop.
There's a new pet.
Chia.
Chia Pet, the pottery that grows. It's fun and easy. Soak your chia, spread the seeds, keep it watered, and watch it grow. And now grow a whole collection of fun with Chia teddy bears, puppies, kittens, rams, bulls. There's even a chia tree to keep your pets company. Chia Pets and Trees, the pottery that grows.
Chia Pets and Chia Trees are available at Frank, Shopko, Hy-Vee, and Woolworth.
Welcome back to Sports Fan Sunday. Still to come, a one-on-one interview with Bob Gainey and discussion of the North Stars' ups and downs. But right now we're going to review the day in sports, specifically football, and talk about what's coming up next week in the wild card games in both the NFC and the AFC. Of course, we knew what teams were going to be involved in the playoffs, save for that one game in the AFC with the Jets playing Miami. So we'll go now to highlights from our first game today. Detroit at Buffalo. Buffalo had won 17 consecutive games at home. They got the Bills mowed into the hair and everything. Barry Sanders puts a move you can't describe on. Scores a touchdown 7-7. Detroit looking good, especially after Sheldon White picks this ball off rather late in the game and gets in for a touchdown, 14-7. The Lions roaring. Back comes Buffalo, though. Steve Tasker from Frank Reich. Now, a lot of controversy here because they didn't run their first team today. Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas sat out. Buffalo has clinched home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs. Eddie Murray on his third try whacked through a field goal in overtime. Detroit won 17-14, and they can still win the Central Division if the Bears should stumble tomorrow night in San Francisco. Dallas could have hosted a wild card game, but not after the Lions won theirs. Of course, they were playing at the same time, and we're going for broke, trying to get at least one game at home. Alexander Wright goes 102 yards for a touchdown, and before the first quarter was over, it was 21-14 Dallas. Atlanta and Jerry Glanville have a lot of firepower. Chris Miller threw one TD pass to Andre Rison, two to Michael Haynes, and they had a lead late in the contest of 27-24. But Emmitt Smith won the NFL rushing title. He went for 160 yards today and 2 touchdowns, and Dallas won 31-27. And we'll give you the matchups concerning those two teams, Dallas and Atlanta, who are still in the playoffs, in just a moment. First to the AFC now, the Jets and Miami. Winners in, losers out. Less than a minute to go. Marino throws a touchdown pass to Farrell Edmonds, and the Dolphins are in, right? 20-17. All they've got to do is hold them at home. But on the last play of regulation, Raul Alegre kicks a long field goal to tie it at 20 apiece. And then in overtime, it's Alegre again, booting it through. 23-20 the final, and the Jets move on, and Miami stays at home, and they'll have a quiet Christmas holiday. NFL scores now. Kansas City beat the Raiders. Denver over San Diego. Pittsburgh topped Cleveland. Cincinnati beat New England. New Orleans over Phoenix. Tampa Bay beat Indianapolis. Philadelphia over Washington. And final, Seattle 23 and the Rams 9 to update that score. One more game in regulation, Chicago at San Francisco tomorrow night. NFC wildcard games, and this is what we'll take on next for discussion. Dallas at Detroit or Chicago, and Atlanta at New Orleans in the NFC. And in the AFC, Kansas City will host the Raiders, and the Jets have to go down to the Astrodome, where Houston is very tough. Buffalo and Denver have the byes in the AFC, and it will be Washington and Chicago or Detroit in the NFC, depending on... I guess we'll first get opinions... Sorry, Mr. Huffman, the guy who was in the trenches just last season. Chicago's at San Francisco.
No, he was on his butt.
I was
people walking over him.
Getting pancaked.
I was watching the trenches, actually, but I'll take the compliment.
Creating
Jim.
Accepts it gracefully and
Thank
the
you.
spirit which it's offered. And,
He's a good man. I'll take it.
Chicago at San Francisco. San Francisco, this may be the prove-it game for them to beat a team that's going to the playoffs. They still have a lot of talent. They've been hot lately. How do you see that?
San Francisco's a team that realizes they want to get back to the playoffs. It's not like the Vikings, who are not sending a coach off and really are in a state of flux. I mean, this team wants to get back to where they were. Seifert's coming back. They've got a lot of players coming back. They want to win this ball game to set a pace for next year. Chicago would like to win it, obviously, to win the division title. So it's a game that's going to have a lot. It's going to be a fun ball game to watch, if that makes any sense.
Well, the Bears aren't entirely healthy. I know Neil Anderson's got some nicks that they're trying to...
But if they were, the Bears are never healthy. I mean, they are, Mike Ditka is almost the not quite, but the Lou Holtz of the professional level. It's a poor, the mea culpa. Everything's wrong. Everything's bad. There is some bad blood apparently between Neil Anderson and Ditka right now. It doesn't matter. Those guys play on the field, and Muster's back, and he's playing. They just find a way to win.
All right, mea culpa down next to academician.
Tell that, too.
I think there may be...
Chest a couple
all right, let's hear
times,
from the guys from Chicago now. I know you guys have
Well,
some...
I think actually, Muster, I remember that Thanksgiving game at Detroit, a game the Bears lost. They didn't even mention that Muster went out, and he's had such an outstanding season. His absence has been a greater loss for Chicago than the absence of Neil Anderson this year, because Muster has done such a great job with his pass-catching ability, and Harbaugh, that's the type of pass he likes to throw, and really he can throw much better than a deep toss.
Does Chicago need to get a home field game to get up here for January 26th?
I mean, the one thing that's happened to the Bears that might be helpful to them in the playoffs is because of the injuries to their running backs, they've had to develop a passing game finally. And Harbaugh, frankly, has surprised me. I didn't think he had it in him to run any kind of passing game.
I would never have guessed that he would be the best Big Ten quarterback in the NFL when Jim Everett's standing there.
That's
true.
true.
Harbaugh has developed under the direction of Greg Landry and Johnny Roll and some other guys, and that the offensive coordinators for the Bears, to a very solid quarterback.
And they took him in the first round with some controversy.
And they were criticized heavily for it.
They got a lot of flack on
He is
that
the first Bear quarterback in 10 years to start every game of a season. 1981, Vince Evans started every game, and he, of course, is long gone. So he's also a durable quarterback of sorts, and he's certainly proven that this year. And he's the type of... Why, did you say that?
No, you said Vince Evans is long gone. That guy must be as old. He must be
56.
Still with the
He's
Raiders.
gotta be. He's running last week for the Raiders. I mean,
He's still gone,
This
though.
20-year-old kid started over him today.
Just
Todd
because he's in the
Marinovich.
league doesn't mean that he's here. I mean, he's basically gone.
But, you know, to the Bears for a quick second, they'll lose tomorrow night. 49ers have dominated the Bears the past couple of times they've played, and I think that the 49ers are a better team than the Bears, even though they're not going to the playoffs. And I think the Bears have a reason to be upset at Marv Levy and the Bills for not playing their starters against Detroit. Buffalo should have played them 4 quarters. That game had meaning.
The interesting question now, several years ago, Tampa was fined by the league for actually dumping a ball game. I mean, losing, not playing. Well, it'll be interesting to see if the league comes back.
How could they tell?
Pardon me?
Tampa. I mean, how could they even?
Well, I mean, they scored negative
There are
points. I think.
degrees
They took
of
points away.
All right,
terrible.
We got to break it up. We got to go and come back because we're going to talk to Bob Gainey, the coach of the North Stars, in our one-on-one segment and react to what the North Stars have been doing lately. Coming up still, our Christmas list. And I'm kind of rooting for Detroit. They've been down for a long time. Like to see them do well in the playoffs. So, hey, it wouldn't hurt me if San Francisco won tomorrow night. We'll be back on Sports Fan Sunday in just a moment.
Hold the end of your string up, Joey. Joey. We're never going to get this done if you keep on eating the Kix.
Kix is a cereal that's low in sugar with a corn crunch that kids like. Kix also makes a great decoration.
So, how's it look? Delicious.
Kix, kid-tested, mother-approved.
Oh, excuse me. Say, did you ever see so many slots? How many do you think there are here at Treasure Island? Nope. Over 600. You know, my wife is really crazy about Treasure Island with its high-stakes bingo. Plus, there's blackjack and wonderful casino action 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh, one more thing. For us high rollers, Treasure Island is really terrific. You know what I mean?
Always love. Always power. Only Miller Lite, with its great Pilsner taste that keeps you ahead of it all, can bring them to you. Luther Vandross, the Power of Love Tour. Luther and Miller Lite.
It's it, and that's that.
It's wintertime at your Chevy Geo dealer. A great time to get big deals on Chevrolets.
$1,000 cash back.
Hey, that's worth more than my baseball card. During wintertime, you can get cash back or low wintertime financing with no payments for 90 days on Chevy. With deals like these, anybody can be a winner.
Dad, it's Bob Euchre.
Hey, kid, you want an autograph?
No, thanks.
Are you kidding? Sure you can have two. Great kid. See your Chevy Geo dealer today.
We're back here on Sports Fan Sunday. Champs in Minnetonka, Eric Nelson, Jim Gilliland, our cast of experts, Dan Barrero, David Huffman, and Perry Williams. Quick hockey final in the Mariucci Classic. The Gophers over Bowling Green, 6-5 in overtime.
Bowling Green is a player from Deerfield, by the way, my high school around Chicago.
That's
great. We've written that down.
You didn't tear that high school down yet?
And from Bowling Green to Deerfield, we'll segue into the North Stars. Jim Gilliland talked to their head coach Bob Gainey earlier in the week. The Stars sputtering along 4th place in the North Division. And that'll be our one-on-one segment tonight in Sports Fan Sunday.
The expectations were a little higher, perhaps at least on the fans' part and probably on your own and the team's part following last spring. And to get off to a slow start, or after the first week or so, to lapse a little bit had to be a little disconcerting. Was everybody disappointed?
I think we were through the month of November. We were disappointed with the output of some of the players and the production of the team as a whole. The expectations were higher, and I think deservedly so. So we've regrouped since then, and we're trying to get our act together and get a consistent effort and a consistent game together each night we play. One thing that's striking now in the NHL is that there isn't a huge difference between the fourth place team in a division and the first place team in any of the divisions, and we see upsets every night. We see the Maple Leafs, who missed the playoffs last year, going on the road and beating Los Angeles, and there just isn't that big of a difference between the teams. Yeah, Detroit is a bit of a surprise. They got on a run and they're pushing it. They're playing really well. So we're all pretty much mixed in there together, and I don't think any of the teams feel that they really have an upper hand on the other club, and it makes for a good divisional race, and the games within our division are always hard-fought and interesting games.
In goal, John Casey, I know, has caused some concern because he hasn't been as consistent of late, but then Wakaluk comes and wins too, so that's got to be encouraging.
I wasn't sure how long John could go on carrying the workload that he was carrying, and I spoke with him about it a few times, asking him to come and give us some indication of when he felt that he wasn't physically at the level he needed to be. And Wakaluk coming in and playing and winning some games gives us that option now, that when we see the things in John Casey's games that indicate that he is tired or he isn't sharp, we don't have to keep plugging him back in there the next night. And I say that, I think the players have gained a confidence in Wakaluk as a goalie. As far as my own hockey career, I was a good player, was a great team, and I was just a working player who came and enjoyed playing, and I think I respect the players, sometimes maybe too much, because I know what they have to do to be good at what they're doing. You see it as somebody who shows up and practices a little bit and goes out and plays, but the good ones, the game never leaves them. It's with them all the time. I really think that what's in front of us is what's important, and I can see the team is gelling a little bit as a team, and they're coming together as a group that when they decide that there's something there that they want to strive for, then we'll be a better team. We won't just be a group of players. And I think I can feel that coming together with our club, and that will hopefully show up with the kind of production and the kind of results on the ice that we had anticipated.
I want to thank Bob Gainey for doing that interview when he was a bit under the weather the other day, just coming off a bout with the flu. The North Stars, to my way of thinking, still deserve some time to gel because of the defensemen. They have, with the exception of Tenorti, none of the guys who are on the blue line right now were there at this time last year. They got 3 through trades, 3 through expansion, Hatcher's playing, and only Tenorti was there at this time last year, and he's been hurt much of the fall. So they've got time, as we all know from last year.
Yeah, they have time. The interesting thing, though, is that in my conversations with Gainey, his approach, he seems more impatient this time because they started this way last year, and he didn't seem to have the same problem. Talking to him about a week or so ago, I think he wants to see some results pretty soon. Even with what you said, I think based on the way they finished the season, he wants to see them put together some kind of consistency during the regular season.
Well, he's also a little bit upset with the fact that when you start depending on a lot of people like Bobby Smith, who in their mid-30s, a lot of the young guys need to start playing up. John Casey, the wandering goalie the last couple of weeks, we dedicate the Wanderer to him now. He keeps coming out a little bit, but he is a gentleman
get a leash for him, I think.
Who leads by example. He's been on the ice. The players know what he's talking about because he's done it for ages. But it's time for some of the young guys. You cannot depend upon your old players time after time.
It will be a mistake, don't you? It's a mistake if they think...
My hockey knowledge.
I think it's a big mistake if they think all they have to do is finish fourth, get in the playoffs, and they'll make the same kind of run they did last year. They won't sneak up on anybody. It's important they get a 1 or a 2 seed to get some home ice advantage. I think repeating last year will be another miracle.
Yeah, I mean, you can only get magic out of the bottle a couple times. It's difficult to repeat it. I think also the problem they've had, and they had all season, they don't have the guys who can put the biscuit in the basket, eh? I mean, they're scoring. They shut out again. I ran into a guy here earlier tonight. He was at the Viking game yesterday, left with about 3 minutes ago. Went to the North Star game. He didn't see anybody score. You know, the Vikings scored, at the very last minute, and the North Stars are shut out again. So they're having trouble. Guys like Mike McDonald have really not blossomed, I don't think, as they thought he might.
Ron Hextall's had some injury problems, but that was his first shutout. He's a good goaltender in 4 years, and it's been since '87 since Ron Hextall.
And suspension problems with Ron Hextall, too.
And we know that Norman Green would like them to play better in the regular season, to put some fannies in the seats out there at Met Center as the competition goes on between the Timberwolves.
Well, actually, the Stars are the one team here who are getting bodies out there, averaging
They've
about
improved,
12,000
they've doubled
a year,
their...
and that's a big improvement from
Well, the
last year.
Timberwolves are still getting bodies. I mean, they're averaging close to 19,000 a game.
19,000.
At least that's what they announced.
In that upper deck, though.
We'll have time for some Timberwolves talk on our Christmas lists, and we'll also get some predictions from our panelists when we come back on the third week of Sports Fan Sunday, live from Champs in Minnetonka.
Twin Cities Leather and Boot gives you 3 reasons to get your new Acme Dingles and Acme Dan Post right now. Reason 1, price. It's our huge Acme Dingo and Acme Dan Post boot blowout. Reason 2, price. Twin Cities Leather and Boot has slashed prices during our gigantic boot blowout. Reason 3, price. Price them anywhere. But during our gigantic boot blowout, we've got the lowest prices on Acme Dingo and Acme Dan Post. 3 reasons to shop our 3 stores. Twin Cities Leather and Boot, downtown Hopkins, just east of Highway 65 in Blaine, and the Burnhaven Mall, Burnsville.
The holiday season means different things to many people. Let's all share this special time of the year in peace. I'm Bud Rose, representing all Champion Auto Stores, owners and managers. Happy holidays, everyone.
The holidays are a special time. Hi, I'm Ronald McDonald from McDonaldland. Here's hoping that this holiday season and all of 1992 is a special time for you and your family.
It's the last week of wintertime at your Chevy Geo dealers, where you can still get cash back or low financing on Chevy cars, trucks, and Geos.
For 92, Lumina's winning. Room for 6, more standard features. Buy now. Up to $1,300 total savings and cash back. For a limited time, Chevrolet Cavalier, sharper than ever. Just announced 2.9 financing for up to 48 months.
Hey, with wintertime deals like these, anybody can still be a winner. See your Heartland Chevrolet Geo dealers today.
I can make you laugh, or I can make you cry. I can bring you all together, or mend a broken heart. I'll lift you up, but I'll never let you down. I am Mr. Movies. For entertainment that's always close to home, the choice is clear. When it comes to movies, all the best are here. And this holiday, give the gift that will entertain all year. A gift certificate from Mr. Movies. Happy holidays.
On, and we are going to call on our panelists to take a stab at what's going to happen during Christmas week here. I think it's going to be a quiet week because of the holiday. I don't know if there's going to be any major decision-making on the McKinley-Boston front or the Roger Hedrick front.
No, the Packers, now Ron Wolf is now the director of player personnel in Green Bay, has said that he will name a coach by Christmas Day. That was his goal. He fired Lindy Infante today, who I thought was going to have another year at Green Bay, so I'm wrong there. But Ron Wolf said he's going to have a coach in the next couple of days. My prediction is that Wheelock Whitney could be the first owner of that 10-man consortium to die of a broken heart because Lou signed that 5-year contract. He's out bemoaning the fact, wiping the tears away that Lou will not be the head coach next year. Give it up, Wheelock.
Well, the Packers, we have lots of Packer fans who would want to hear what's going to happen this week regarding the Packers. Well, I think they're going to have a big shooter. I don't know. You've been predicting Parcells.
Well, Bill Parcells was supposedly cited in the Fox River Valley last week for whatever that's worth.
Was that before or after his angioplasty?
That was before. That led to the angioplasty, meeting with the Packers.
Green Bay is the capital of angioplasty.
But he's close with Ron Wolf, the new GM. I think Bill Parcells is just sitting back, going to weigh these offers. And the only question I have is if you have an angioplasty problem, a heart, any kind of heart problem, why would you want to re-enter the coaching world and have all that stress and have to work 100 hours a week?
It's like a rebuilt engine. He's clean. They cleaned him out. He's ready to go. He's got another 50,000 miles on him.
Have you had that done to you?
No, I'm still 34. I
Well,
still
he's
got
not
about
the
10
first
years.
guy that would have happened. A lot of guys have come back.
Dan Reeves has done it.
Yeah.
Mike Ditka, obviously, had the
Yeah.
heart problem.
It can be done.
But Bill Parcells is a rising star. NBC's very happy with him at NFL Live.
He's got great bartering power there. He's got the 2 draft choices. I think he likes that slug-it-out football, though. I think he would prefer Green Bay atmosphere to Tampa Bay atmosphere.
It's outdoors. It's grass field. It's great fans. That stadium is
And they have
always full.
2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. Green
Tight
Bay
with Wolf.
And as Lindy and Fonnie said today, we're 9 plays away from being 10-6. I mean, of course, any team can say that.
0-17.
They're also in a division where they can make a difference. I mean, you saw what Detroit did this year, and I think there's probably a little feeling that that can be done in Green Bay in the next year or 2.
Anything
With
bold
the right
from
selection.
you guys there on the end for this coming week? Anything you think is going to happen?
Prediction. Well, all right. I'll make a prediction that I think will hold up even through the trading deadline. I do not think Jerome Pooh Richardson will be traded from the Timberwolves, and I also think it might not be a bad idea though if the team continued to perpetuate rumors that he's about to be traded because he's played his best 4 games of the year, the last 4 games.
See, last night with the LA Clippers in town, did we see the player that there's a possibility he's traded for, Loy Vaught?
Well, Vaught's the guy. The deal that apparently was available is Vaught and a number 1. They want another player or another draft choice, which I agree with.
Okay, Pear.
I think the Bears will win tomorrow night, but then Dallas will go to Detroit and win that wild card game.
So the Lions are out. Okay, we'll come back with our Christmas list on the next segment of Sports Fan Sunday and see if we can get our panelists to chip in there as well. It rolls on from Champs in Minnetonka on our holiday edition of Sports Fan Sunday.
How do you get to the airport? Airport Sedan, the taxi alternative, and Limousines Limited can replace the hassles of traffic, parking, taxis, and carrying your luggage long distances with the convenience, comfort, and affordability of one of our sedans or limousines. And when you return, we'll meet you curbside in front of your flight's baggage carousel. Around town, our chauffeur-driven sedans and limousines offer a great way to have meetings on the move and make the most of your time. And yes, we can serve your personal entertaining needs with the same luxury and style. Call 341-4141 and let us tell you more. That's 341-4141.
Come to play, Little Six, blackjack in the big time casino. Come to win, Little Six, come on into the big time casino. Come to play, blackjack, it's the one blackjack in the big time casino. Little Six, the big time casino.
Just south of Canterbury Downs in Shakopee. It's wintertime at your Chevy Geo dealer. A great time of year to get big deals on dependable, long-lasting Chevy trucks.
I've always been a big fan. Not you, Chevy trucks.
Sure, I'll send you a picture later. Hey, during wintertime, you can get cash back or low wintertime financing with no payments for 90 days on hardworking Chevy trucks. With deals like these, anybody can be a winner. Shucks, I got me $1,000 cash back. He ought to have his own show. See your Chevy Geo dealer today.
Transportation for guests of Sports Fan Sunday, courtesy of Airport Sedan, the taxi alternative, and Limousines Limited. Call 341-4141.
We're back in Minnetonka at Champs Restaurant. We're winding down this 3rd edition of Sports Fan Sunday. Jim Gilliland and myself going to play Santa Claus. Christmas only a few days away, so we've come up with a Christmas list that we thought and give some gifts to some of the various teams and sports people around the world of sports. So let's start out with my list. First of all, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm going to give them a winning streak. I think they desperately need one. This 1-game winning streak and then lose 5 or 6 more has got to end for the Wolves. For the Vikings, I'm going to give them Bill Parcells. I know everybody thinks I'm nuts, but if Parcells comes here, they win. Simple. For the Stars, another chance at the Cup. For the U of M, a clone of Vashawn Leonard. I saw him beat Detroit with the 3-pointer Monday night. The kid plays like a senior even though he's only a freshman. And for all the minority coaching applicants out there in the NFL, there may be 8 or 9 jobs. I hope some of you get a fair shake and get listened to, because this could be a repeat of Major League Baseball where they had 14 managerial changes and only 1 minority hired. I want to see some new blood.
For those wishes, you're going to keep some of those teams not believing in Santa Claus, because I don't think some of them are too practical. I started out with the Vikings as well, hoping that Roger Hedrick can get a coach who will have final approval over trades. he has said he wants someone who's receptive to front office suggestions. That's kind of a loaded way to grab a coach. For the Twins, they need a reduction in that capital gains tax so that Carl can afford to pay Jack more. I mean, really, right now, he doesn't have a lot of dough. And so he had to let Jack and Danny Gladden go. Timberwolves, they do need a rookie center with a move, and Shaquille O'Neal is out there. We don't know if the ping pong balls will be in the right order or whether Shaq will come out this year, but two guys are trying hard, but they aren't much of a threat in the low post. For the North Stars, let's get that scoring line back together. They haven't been doing much offensively. Prop has been injured, and Gagne is coming off an injury too now, but we need some firepower there. And a national title for Doug Woog of the Hockey Gophers, because I like the guy, and they're in it every year, and I hate to see him kind of fidget and get nervous when
they're due.
Because all that's left for him to win is the national title. He's done everything else. All right, panelists, chip in with something for Santa to bring to the local teams.
Fill our stockings.
Great dates for me in '92. How's that?
I'm moving now. I've had all I can stand here.
Give him some, pour some Gatorade on him.
I'd like to see better media relations with a lot of the players and the teams in this town.
Here,
I came off the field for 11 years. I think it is time for a lot of these guys who like to hide behind the big money. They like to hide behind a lot of these things. Nobody's out here to hang anybody. Get real.
Except for Barrero.
Open the communications again. Talk to each other. Nobody's here going to hang each other.
On that conciliatory note, I would like to give or buy, if you can purchase guts, I'd like to buy guts for the Vikings because they play as if they don't have any. Is that conciliatory?
I think that's a sweet gesture.
I think so.
Guts are on sale at Target.
And I would think, I wish for the best for Al Newman, too. He's been a lot of fun while he's been around here, and wherever he ends up, I hope it makes a lot of green.
Al Newman and Sean Salisbury, a guy who bit his lip all year and arguably could have at least been given a shot on a team that was going nowhere in a hurry.
Dave's choked up about it.
Jack. Let's start crying.
Well, Jack, maybe he's home for the winter. Or at least he says that he's going to continue to make Minnesota his home.
He's got a better tax base here than Canada. That's why he's going to be here.
I doubt if we can get him to speak candidly about contract negotiations, but maybe we can get some feedback from him regarding what happened with the negotiations of the perfect match between the World Series pitcher and the hometown team.
You got a foul tip off him once in Little League or wherever it was, so it's...
To the backstop, all the way to the backstop.
Yeah, okay. You got you have some inside information there.
Oh, he's younger than I am. All right, we'll be back next week with resolutions. Hey, you think the Santa list is something? Well, you see the resolutions of the panelists. Thanks to our guests, Dan Barrero, David Huffman, Perry Williams, Jim Gilliland for Eric Nelson. So long from Champs in Minnetonka. Thanks for joining us on Sports Fan Sunday.
Sports Fan Sunday has been brought to you in part by Twin Cities Leather and Boot, Hopkins, Burnsville, and Blaine. And by Chevrolet, the heartbeat of America.
How do I tell people Total Raisin Bran is better than Kellogg's Raisin Bran? I greet the incoming flight.
Total Raisin Bran, more nutritious than Kellogg's, and people prefer the taste.
Oh, that's a big one. They saw me.
How am I telling people Total Raisin Bran is better than Kellogg's Raisin Bran? I'm sending a box to all my friends.
Total Raisin Bran, more nutritious than Kellogg's, and people prefer the taste.
They're gonna love this stuff.
Receptive Channel 9.
Joining our studio tonight on the Weekend Jam are Marlo Thomas, Robert Pastorelli, and the cool sounds of Vanilla Ice. So stay tuned.
You're pretty good.
Nah.
Oh, I got cold disc.